Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Marianne Pinkston, the Better Life with Dr. Pinkston. And as usual, I want to bring you some information that I hope represents what's going on in your world and bring a little extra knowledge to your plate to try to help you in many of your endeavors from an integrative medicine, kind of functional medicine point of view. And today we'll go along the lines of something that is near and dear to my heart. I've got a fantastic lady here who is going to tell us her story. And I think she and I have a lot in common. You as well, most of my audience knows that I was 300 pounds at one point, lost a lot of weight, and had to face an eating disorder. And I'm a doctor. I'm an educated person. I have done a lot, but didn't realize until I was 47 years old that I might have an eating disorder. And that was why I gained up to the weight that I did. But I have Amber Abila here. See, I told you. And so I have Amber Abila here, and she is a binge eating and overeating coach, does a lot of great work. And I welcome you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Pinkston. I'm so excited to be here and talk about my story, how I also struggled with binge eating, and ultimately how I overcame it, because there's a lot of different information out there. Oh, yeah. But what I find is so interesting is that binge eating wasn't even recognized as an eating disorder until 2013.
Wow.
So that was only about 12 years ago. So there's a lot of different advice, approaches out there. Of course, binge eating has been around longer than that. It was only recognized in the DSM-5 at that time. So I'm super excited to be here today with you.
Well, thank you. I think this is a very important topic because I think, we have a lot of DSM disorders, which is the, psychiatric disorders and eating disorders I think has been kind of brushed under the rug. I think there's a lot of people who don't realize that they have a disorder. And I'm absolutely blown away at your statistic there of being recognized in 2013. If I look backwards, that is about the time I started waking up to things and understanding. So that sounds about right. No doctor brought it up to me. I've seen many. I know many doctors. I've seen many doctors. I approach many about issues. Nobody brought that up to me. So dive in. Tell us your story and how you came to do all this.
Yeah, with doctors, sometimes it's looked at as a personal willpower problem of something we need to try harder with, but that's really not the case. So for me and so many others, our journey started when we started dieting. So back in 2015, I went on my first diet, but I didn't think it was a diet because it was calorie counting. Right. So I had decided I wanted to lose about 10 pounds. Like I didn't have a ton of weight to lose, but I just thought I wanted to trim up. Some of my friends were talking about how they had lost some weight. So I was like, you know what? Let's do this. So I Googled how you lose weight. It's like calories in, calories out. Seems so simple. So I downloaded MyFitnessPal. I opened the app and I got my perfect calorie count for how much I needed to eat. Now, I followed that pretty strictly for a couple of months. And then I decided I could use a little more weight loss. So I just lowered it a little bit more. And I just thought, well, if I want to lose weight faster, let's just keep lowering it. Yes. Now, what I know now that I didn't know then is to our body, it does not know the difference between low calorie count and a famine happening from the face of the planet Earth. Right. So then I started getting these really strong cravings for food. And the first time I binged, I remember it so clearly. I walked downstairs to my kitchen. It was around Christmas time, and we had a Christmas tin of cookies. I opened it up and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna have one cookie. I've been so good. I had one cookie and I was flooded with this desire for more. I felt like I became a ghost in my body, and I just had another and another and another until I had 7 cookies. And then I was filled with so much shame. I was like, I can't believe I just did this. And that was also the first time that I ever purged and threw up. So I did struggle with bulimia for a time period as well, because I was just so desperate to keep the weight off. I didn't want anything to deter me in this weight loss goal.
Understood.
Now, after a few months of that, I realized I can't do this anymore, that this is becoming unsustainable. I'm gaining weight rapidly now. I'm also throwing up almost every day. I knew all the negative health consequences of that. And I was like, it's not getting any better on my own. In fact, it's always just getting worse every day. So I'm going to go seek out help. I went to therapy, as is the first place most people go if they want to take this more psychological approach to healing. And while therapy did really help me with my bulimia, it didn't help me so much with my binge eating. And that's when I really started to feel broken, was I've been in therapy for all these months now, and I've tried a couple different therapists, and none of them seem to be quite working for me, where I feel like I'm not stopping binge eating. And we just kept going to my past and where this might have formed and looking at my emotions, which aren't bad things. And I'm sure I gained a lot of awareness through that helped me later down the line. But I just felt like I was still binge eating. And so I was like, this isn't really working for me. So that's when I decided to go do my own research and figure out what the heck was going on here. And I started learning about habits and how our brain forms habits and how there's a trigger or cue. And then we do the thing, we get a reward, and then it gets reinforced. And I had a light bulb moment where I realized my binge eating has kind of been like this, where I have all of these triggers and these cues that make me want to binge. And then I get this desire, I get this strong urge to do it. I do it, and then my brain gets the reward, and then I keep doing it. And what I realized too was that a lot of people think that they need to change their triggers. Like, okay, I'm not going to go out to eat. I'm not going to have this food in the house. I'm going to eliminate X, Y, and Z. And that can work, but it makes your life very small and doesn't feel sustainable. So what I did instead was I started to learn, well, how do I change my reaction to these triggers, which were my urges? So I started to learn, well, how do I sit with these urges? What are urges? Where are they coming from? How can I view them in a new light where they don't feel so powerful? And that was ultimately, I mean, there was a few other things down the line that we can continue to talk about, but that was really my biggest aha moment that I had. That was, oh my gosh, I get it. Nothing's wrong with me. It's just my brain has gotten in this really strong habit around food. And all I need to do essentially is, in order to stop binge eating, we stop binge eating, because then that deconditions the habit pathway and makes it so we no longer want to do it anymore.
Excellent. And so I think there are times where I when I talk with patients and I open their eyes and their mind to the idea that this, may be occurring, you mentioned the shame that is there. It's very difficult for patients to open up to me and talk about it. And while we're in a small, a very short appointment, getting to the basis of that and how that habit formed, and then, facing that shame of it and how they begin to reverse that, I found that sending them to counseling is very helpful if the counselor does know kind of where that's coming from. But I think their understanding might improve if they understand how to approach it. I mean, some of the first steps of how to approach it. So how does someone, I think identifying it and admitting to it is, more than half of the problem, certainly. So maybe we should define it first. And then, how did they take some of those first steps to begin to change that habit?
Yeah. So the first thing you mentioned here is the shame around it.
Right.
And I think that is actually the first step, is to unshame ourselves from this. Because if we feel shame around it, we are putting this in a deep, dark closet of our mind that we don't want to look at. And when we binge, we just pretend it doesn't happen. I would do it in secret, away from everyone else. And then I couldn't build any awareness. I didn't have any acknowledgement of it. And in order to do that, we have to let go of the shame, because if we think that there's something wrong with us and there's something broken about us, of course we don't want to acknowledge it. No one wants to say there's something just broken with me in my brain. So what I like to remind people of is that all you're doing is eating food. That is the truth of what binge eating is you're eating food. Yes, it's more food than your body needs. It is overeating on the food. But if we just take away all the drama from it, you're eating food, and everyone eats food. There's nothing weird or wrong about that. And in fact, when we actually look at how binge eating forms, it makes a lot of sense. This is actually a sign that your brain is functioning very properly, because if your brain did not respond with that strong binge behavior, 100 years ago, you would have been dead and you wouldn't have survived. So a lot of people tend to think they're crazy or weird, but almost all behaviors in any area, if you look at it as how could this be trying to help me survive, it makes a lot more sense. And that can kind of take away the shame from it, that this was helping me in some way at some point in time, and I'm just eating food. Once you get rid of the shame bubble and we're okay, I can breathe a little now, I can see what I'm doing and why I might be doing it, then I think, yes, awareness is important to start to see when and where am I doing this? Like, when does this happen? When does it show up for me? I always recommend doing just a simple food diary for that. This is not a counting calories or macros, but just like writing down what you eat and when you eat and any notes that you have or why you ate it. Just to sort of get like some clear insights of, oh, I'm noticing at this time it happens, or it usually is in this situation, or I get this thought and this happens. And then from there, one of the key skills is you've started to build some awareness around your thoughts. Looking at what thoughts are creating desire for binge eating and for food. Because I'll give you an example here. If I sat here with this glass of water and I told myself that this is going to be the last glass of water I get all day long, and it's really, really good. In fact, it's the best water I've ever tasted in my life. And I don't know when I'm going to get it again, but I just know that once I start drinking this, I can't stop.
Right.
I now have created desire for this water.
Yeah.
Like, I want to drink it now. I'm really thirsty. Because not just because of the water's just existing, but because of the way my thoughts and my mindset perceived that water.
Sure.
And so we do this with food a lot of times, where we say, I don't know when I'm gonna get this food again, or it's off limits. And then we put it on a pedestal, but it's really good and I really want it.
This is the last time I'm going to do this. This is it. No more after this, right?
And every time we do that and create desire for it, it's going to make it harder to change. So we can do that around the food, but we can also do this around the binge eating behavior in general. So we can say things like, I need this to cope. But binge eating is kind of pleasurable. It's kind of fun. It's exciting for a bit. Any of those thoughts also make it so we don't want to get rid of binge eating. Who wants to get rid of something that's kind of fun and enjoyable? And so a lot of the work that I do through coaching, and why coaching is so important and having someone with you in this journey, is because they can help you start to see and shift your mindset around why these foods aren't desirable, and also why you don't want to have the binge eating habit, and can kind of connect your brain to the negative consequences of it.
Yeah. I think negativity is 80% of our thoughts on a daily basis and tied to survival. If you look back at the cavemen, they had to get up every day, run from the bear, go hunt for food that was scarce. They had to, probably watch their neighbor to make sure they weren't, going to be killed off from the food sources because they were scarce, et cetera. I mean, that is a fight or flight response. And, just to be a little bit transparent in the shame department, as a 47-year-old woman who owns a medical clinic, who, has 3 children and is a leader and does all these things, has podcast, radio show and whatnot. There would be times people would tell me, well, I don't know why you're so overweight, Dr. Pinkston. I never see you eat, but I'd wait until everybody went to bed. And then I would pull out the little plastic bin, from under the bed, or go to the back of the pantry where I had everything hid, and then take a nosedive. And it could be 3,500 calories. And this would happen usually from triggers of excess stressors somewhere down the road. And that's a deep, dark thing too. But that did create a pleasure. That was, but the foods that I chose are very specific and very pleasurable. But then afterwards, there was that hit of, oh gosh, I can't do this. This isn't right. I'm going to gain more weight. I'll never do it again. And the guilt that came with it and all. That was extremely powerful. That was very, very powerful. And I felt it very difficult. So what I did was, like I say, after 13 years of going back and forth like this, I had finally engaged somebody to help me understand it and help me through it. And that is another point I think you're trying to make too, is that we need support. There's a lot of these things we shouldn't do alone. I won't say can't do alone, but should do alone. And the woman that helped me, Sandy, was still in my life, 10 years later. And she brought it to my attention of what I was actually doing and why I was doing it. And that is so important. And so I feel like the support behind that is crucial. Absolutely. So do you agree?
Yeah, I do. And they can help you see things from a whole nother lens. A lot of times when we're struggling, I like to compare it to, like, if you're inside a glass bottle and you're trying to read the label from the inside. You can kind of make it out a little bit, but you're so deep in it that you can't really make out the words as much as someone who's on the outside is like, oh, I can tell you exactly what this says. I can show you exactly what this means. And so they can just see it in a little more clear light, because we're very biased in our brain. We believe everything we think a lot of the times because our brain likes to be right about things. It wants to prove itself true. And so it is helpful to have someone say like, oh, what if we viewed it this way? What if we thought about it this way? And then that can start to shift some of our beliefs, which changes our actions around food.
Right. Absolutely. That's very, very well put. That objective view can be true in anything that we are facing, and trying to handle support is very, very important. And so with all that, what is your approach then? How do you approach people who in your coaching, and how do you approach people who are just beginning to uncover this and want help?
Mm-hmm. So I go through 6 pillars in my program that I can go over briefly on each one. And the first one is the mindset piece. So this is a lot of times that awareness building, that having someone else come in and see it, having you see it for yourself, which we've already kind of touched on. My second pillar is moderation. So this is learning how to eat anything in moderation. And this has a lot to do with desire and our abundance versus scarcity mindset. So we talked about the water and how we can create desire for it. But another big thing I see with people who have dieted is this scarcity mindset around food, where we feel like it's never enough, that no matter how much we eat, we always need more. And what I like to tell people is that enough is always a decision. It is a thought that we're having, is not a fact. Because someone can be making $1 million a year and decide, I'm not making enough. I don't have enough. I need more. And someone could be making $50,000 a year and saying, I have plenty. I get all my needs met. It's perfect. I'm happy, because it's our mindset around it. So of course there's like a certain amount of food that we truly do need in order to survive on earth. But then beyond that, there's a decision that we can make around food on deciding what's enough. Then third, I go into our urges. So our urges are that strong feeling of desire right before we go into the habit. Now, with our urges, I find it really important to go into our body and start to notice what sensations they're creating. Because a lot of times when we're getting these cravings around food, we get very in our head with a lot of thoughts. Should I do it? Should I not do it? I'm going to be bad. I'm going to be good. Oh my gosh, I was already bad yesterday. Well, maybe this food's just a little to have it. It's just like these frantic thoughts. And so when we could go into our body and say, what am I noticing right now about this sensation? And what I mean by that is like really labeling what this craving feels like. So does it feel like, for most people, it's probably not going to feel soft and fluffy. It might feel like hard and fast and red. And I feel it in my chest and my throat. And just doing that brings our energy down and just be like, okay, where are these sensations, and grounds us a little bit. And that helps us process this urge a bit. And it can also just help us calm us down. So we're not in this fight or flight state, because when we're in the fight or flight state, we're not able to use our higher brain that knows, oh, this isn't something I want to do.
Right. Very primitive.
Yeah. And then fifth, we go into your confidence and body image. So healing like this kind of desire that's been taught to us, that always needing to lose more weight. That's like kind of I always need to lose weight story, that like, no matter if I got to, 50 pounds, my brain would probably tell me I need to lose more weight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then finally, we learn how to maintain progress by shifting our identity. So that's just kind of an overview of the steps that I take people through, and kind of some of the actionable things we look at during each one of those.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, why is the urge what makes it occur again? Why? Explain for everybody why it's so strong, because it is. Yeah. It's tough.
So every time we do something, it's like taking a checkmark vote in our brain. So we do this every single day with brushing our teeth. Every day we're taking the check mark in our brain. So then we don't brush our teeth. We're like, oh, I just feel gross today. I feel like I haven't brushed my teeth. That's where that desire is coming from. So every single time that you binge, you've been ingraining this habit that this is something I want to do. When your brain stops getting the reward of food, then it deconditions that brain pathway. So when we don't eat, when we get the urge to binge and we sit with it, we get through that and we don't eat, our brain doesn't get the reward and then starts to rewire. Now, you might be thinking, well, that sounds horrible. I want the reward though. I don't want to sit with not having the reward, but we're going to give our brain a new reward instead. And what that reward is going to be is celebration. Celebration is like neural superglue in our brain, where it cements in any habit that we want to have. So anytime we get proud of ourselves, excited, our brain pays attention because it pays attention to strong emotions. Strong emotions, again, historically, if we look at from a survival perspective, strong emotion means something is going on that we need to pay attention to. Either something is bringing us a positive survival benefit, we're falling in love, we're feeling really strong emotion, we better pay attention to this and remember this, or something really bad is happening. Our best friend from the tribe is leaving us, and that means we better pay attention and remember this so it doesn't happen again. So if we use that to our advantage, we can celebrate ourselves. And we're saying, I'm so proud of you for changing your brain in this moment, for not acting on this old habit. And that celebration is what's going to make it so your brain remembers next time, hey, remember when we got the urge yesterday and we felt really excited and proud of ourselves and we said, go me, you've got this, you're doing amazing. Your brain says, oh, that was really fun. Let's do that again now. But a big mistake I see people making is they get through the urge and they're just like, oh, thank God I got through that. Like, I hope that never happens again. And it's like, it probably will happen again because you've trained it in for many different years to eat like this. And so it's probably gonna come again, but if we can make it something that's fun and enjoyable to sit through, then it doesn't have to be a big deal.
Yeah. And I find it's really part of the addictive cycle. So, you know, we get those dopamine surges. Dopamine is the happy hormone. That is the one that makes you feel momentarily, because it is a momentary response, you know, very, very, very strongly happy and overjoyed. And so I find that the binging is much like an addiction, giving into an addiction, maybe smoking, even things like gambling, porn. There's many, many different areas where people shopping, you know, there's many different ways that people get that dopamine urge. Do you find the same, that they may have other addictive habits too?
Yeah, because behind any addictive habit is this concept of intermittent reinforcement, where sometimes we get the reward and sometimes we don't. So our brain is perceiving, well, the food is kind of pleasurable, but it's also giving me a lot of pain. And so it's trying to figure out, it hasn't made a reliable distinction between the two ideas of, is binge eating fun or is it not fun? And this is often the idea in all other addictions. You drink alcohol, it's like, wow, sometimes it's fun, I'm having a good time, I'm relaxed. But then I wake up and I'm hungover. And it feels like this 50-50 split of, is it fun, is it not fun? With any other thing too. Smoking, okay, it's fun, it feels good, it's relaxing, but I'm also spending a lot of money on it. I know the long-term consequences of it. So the key comes from when we can differentiate and change this proportion that our brain is viewing the habit as positive and negative. So for people who don't struggle with alcohol, I've had times in my life where I've definitely overdrank, and it's because I'm perceiving it as more pleasurable than not. But now I don't really drink that much anymore. I don't have a problem with it anymore because I am focusing more on the negative consequences of it, and I'm not telling myself the story about how it's going to be fun. When I decide I'm going to drink now, all I'm thinking about is, I'm probably not going to sleep well tonight. I'm going to be tired tomorrow. I'm adding on extra calories today that I don't really need. It's going to be really hard for me to work out in the morning and get up out of bed.
Is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth it? Is it really worth it?
And because of that, I'm like, you know what? I don't really want it. Or if I do have it, I definitely don't want it anymore because I'm keeping those things in mind. And so I call this as like showing ourselves the whole story, because a lot of ourselves tell ourselves chapter 1. Chapter 1, I eat the food, it tastes good, the end, it's great. But there's chapters 2 through 10, which is the rest of the experience that is very miserable and negative, that creates a lot of pain in our life. And so, yes, while there is some things going on in our brain where we might get this dopamine hit from the drive to go get these foods, what matters is not so much like the reality of what's going on, but is it helpful to tell yourself about that reality? So if you are telling yourself all day long, well, but binge eating is fun, it's pleasurable, and I get this hit, it's not helpful, because then that's going to make you want to do it. So instead, you just need to be telling yourself the story of all of the negative consequences and searching out for as many of those as you can find. One thing that I've noticed about certain foods that I encourage people to like really slow down when you're eating and see if you notice any of these for yourself. For me, anytime I have gummy candy, I don't like to have gummy candy because I get this sugar feeling coating on my teeth that I think is disgusting. I hate it. It makes me want to brush my teeth immediately, but then I know it's bad to brush your teeth right after you have sugar and the acids are getting brushed into it more. So I just don't really want to eat gummy candy because of that one little thing that I paid attention to. Same thing with me for ice cream. Ice cream makes me extremely thirsty. And I'm sure, it's partially the sugar in it, the carbs, maybe it's something else. But all I know is I eat ice cream and I feel like I am like needed to chug water the rest of the day. I can't sleep well that night. I wake up in the middle of the night and I feel thirsty then, or I need to pee all night. So for me, because I'm remembering that, I'm like, I don't really want ice cream right now. Now, I didn't notice those things until I started to slow down around the food.
Right.
If you are binge eating, it tends to happen very, very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So one thing I encourage people to do is, even if you still binge the same amount of food, I want you to sit down and try to do a mindful binge. Now, most of the times you'll try to do this, you'll actually eat a lot less because you're paying paying attention to it and you're like finally actually getting the pleasure and satisfaction you want. But at the very least, you will notice something different about that experience that you might have not noticed before. So literally giving yourself permission to binge, like you can binge right now, but let's do it sitting down with the food all plated out and just me and the food, just paying attention, eating it slowly and just see what happens and what you can notice differently.
Yeah. Mindful eating, right? And so, the one thing we didn't do, and we're probably going to step into a break here shortly, but one thing we didn't do was really define the difference between just overeating, emotional eating, and binge eating. There is a difference. You can do both at the same time even, right?
Absolutely. So there is like a true medical definition for binge eating, which is eating a larger amount of food than most people would consider normal within a 2-hour time span. So that alone is pretty like what does that mean, a larger food than most? But I think we can kind of distinguish between like, oh, I had 3 cookies versus I had the whole box of cookies. Like that's kind of the difference between overeating and binge eating. But both can feel like out of control. Both can feel frantic. The biggest difference I see between someone who like overeats at times and someone who like truly binges is the difference in the level of hunger they experience or are currently experiencing in their history with food.
Interesting.
So the stronger the restriction or deprivation that someone had in the past, usually the bigger the binges are. And if they're still currently restricting, that of course also makes the binges larger right now. Versus I've had people who like haven't really dieted before. Or maybe they dieted, but it only lasts them like 3 days and then they overate so much food that it made up for it anyways. And so those people tend to be more like the overeating side, I find, where it's more like we're just eating a little extra. And that's because their body has been properly nourished and fed. So it doesn't quite send the same level of desire for large amounts of food.
Yeah, gotcha. And so what about, people who do have significant trauma in their past? Do you find that they tend to have more of these issues than not?
It definitely can be a factor. And I think that this is actually like a bigger question than most people realize, where it's pretty unknown the role of trauma in our eating issues. It can definitely be a factor for sure. And it's hard to define like what is a trauma, right? Like we have like bigger T traumas that we're like, yes, this for sure could count as something, sexual assault, abuse, all of these things we can count. But then sometimes people have like these micro traumas that happen. And what happens if you have 10 little micro traumas that happen, all in a year? Maybe that makes up one bigger one. So I think for most people, unfortunately, we have something in our life that we could categorize as trauma, but that doesn't necessarily mean we'll develop binge eating disorder or another eating disorder. It tends to be how people move forward from that trauma. And so if during that time, let's say they had some sort of sexual abuse or just abuse in general happening, and then they also started eating these highly processed foods during that time, that can start to connect in, some of these molecular things that happen underneath of it does feel good. And it starts to ingrain in this habit of like, we need these processed feel good foods to survive. And so I think these two can get to cope and survive through them. And so those things can get connected and later reoccur later in life. So if someone has trauma, I always recommend them to work with a therapist first to like work through some of those things. But if you find that you're working through your trauma and that doesn't automatically change your binge eating, a lot of people, that's common for a lot of people. And that's what people often then come to a coach or a specialist to work specifically with binge eating.
Well said. So I think on that note, we will take a very short break, but I want people to know, where can they find you and more information on you? I think you've got an offer too.
Yeah, so I have a free guided audio. If you go to the confidenteater.org/urge, URGE, urge, you'll be able to find my guided urge audio, or you can just go to confidenteater.org. It'll be up there. And that's where I'd recommend starting. This is going to be a guided audio that will walk you through what to do when you get these strong urges and cravings. So it'll walk you through how to stop a binge in the moment before it starts. And then you can find more about me on my website as well.
Excellent. Confidenteater.org. And that will all be on my website, of course, where you can find the show and other shows at drpbetterlife.com. I will have more information on Miss Amber here. And so please take a look. We are going to take a short break. What I would like to do is come back and talk a little bit about approaching treatment, what you do for treatment. And so we'll take a short break with Magna Pharmaceuticals and be right back.
Depression, anxiety, low energy, weakness, these are just some symptoms of low B12 levels. And the absorbable B12 folate supplement that's helping people declare victory over depression symptoms is De Novo Plus B12 by Magna Pharmaceuticals. Patients with symptoms of depression often exhibit low levels of folate and vitamin B12. The human body needs sufficient folate intake to produce the essential neurotransmitters serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. These neurotransmitters alleviate feelings of sadness, anxiety, and gloom. What makes De Novo Plus B12 so successful? De Novo Plus B12 contains readily absorbable folate and B12. That means it's more successful at correcting the root cause of your deficiency, not just the symptoms. Whether you are suffering with low energy, depression, fatigue, or anxiety, you owe it to yourself to learn more at magnaweb.com. That's magnaweb.com. Please let us know at checkout that you heard about De Novo Plus B12 on The Better Life with Dr. Pinkston.
I appreciate Magna so much. Warren and Mary Lesser have been very, very good to me, and I'm very thankful for that. But I have today somebody that this has been a great conversation. So Amber Abila is here with me, and theconfidenteater.org is where you can find more information. And we are talking about overeating and binge eating and how to approach that. I know you have some great approaches with therapy. Treatment? How do you approach your patients?
Yeah. So before the break, I mentioned the guided urge audio that I give people on the Stop a Binge audio. And in that, I'm going to kind of go through what I go through in that audio because it is really indicative of how I help people through this. So first is like looking at how our higher and lower brains are different. So having this fundamental understanding that we have these parts of our brain that can think ahead and plan ahead and have our best goals in mind. And then we also have these parts of our brain, these lower parts, these more animalistic parts that are in charge of our survival. And we go through a fight with both of these parts of our brain throughout our day in so many different areas. You know, procrastination. Oh, one part of me wants to lay on the couch and do nothing all day. And the other part of me wants to work hard and get this done. One part of me wants to go to the gym. The other part of me just wants to watch Netflix. And the same thing can happen with food, where one part of us, we know that we want to stop binge eating, but the other part of us just wants to keep things the same as they've always been. And same to our brain means safe. Even if it's not where we want to be, it's what it knows. And so it wants to stay in binge eating land because it feels like, okay, I've known this for so long. I don't know what's out here where it could be
comfortable,
scary.
Right? Comfortable. It's comfortable. Familiar, maybe. Familiar.
Yeah. So something I do with a lot of people in my practice is aspects of hypnosis. So when you hear hypnosis, a lot of people think of, you know, like the little watch going around and, you know, people like dancing like a chicken on stage. That is like stage hypnosis. That's not really the therapeutic use of what hypnosis will be in a session with someone.
Yes.
And all hypnosis is essentially relaxing our conscious mind enough to get to these deeper layers of our unconscious. Mm-hmm. So I noticed that when I first started coaching, I was running into a lot of people who were saying like, yeah, I know what to do, but I'm not doing it. And I know so many of us have said that before. Like, yeah, I know I should eat healthy. I know this isn't good for me, but I keep doing it. And why is that? Yes. That's because we have these lower parts of your brain, these unconscious parts of our brain that are trying to help keep us safe and the same and doing things as easy as possible. So in hypnosis, we'll often do some relaxation technique to just help us go a little bit deeper and turn off our blah, 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 blah brain all day long. And then we can start to access some more insights and wisdom around what might be keeping us stuck. So in this audio that I mentioned, I have people imagine a path in the road where we're imagining path A and path B and the different options we have when we're deciding, should I binge or should I not binge? Should I eat this food or should I not eat this food? Now, something that's really important to note about anytime we visualize something is our brain does not know the difference between an in-depth imagined experience and something that happens in reality. So how many of us have like had an argument with our partner in our brain and thought about how mad we are at them and how they didn't do the dishes this morning and la-da-da-da. And then we get home and we like yell at them and they're like, what's going on? Like, we never talked about this. It was just because we created a really imagined experience in our brain that it literally created physical reactions in our body and then actions from that place. They've done studies where they take people who practiced playing piano for a month and then people who imagined playing piano for a month, and they had the same results in the improvement of piano playing. Wow. So we know that our brain is a super powerful tool.
Mm-hmm.
So how we can use this then to help us stop binge eating is we can first imagine, let's say we do eat the food. Now, we're not imagining like, oh, it's going to be rainbows and unicorns and butterflies. It's going to be so delicious and I'm going to love the experience because, that's not really what happens. But we're going to play out that whole story. So we're going to imagine, okay, we sit down, we start eating the food. Maybe it tastes good for a little, but then all of a sudden we're eating more frantically. And that experience alone isn't fun. Like if you actually look at your experience of binge eating, it's not enjoyable. Like you are so ashamed. You're filled with so much guilt. You're not even tasting the food. You're eating it so quickly. You're not even chewing the food. It's just like chunks of ice cream arriving in your stomach all out. Barely noticing them. So that experience is even fun. So if you like showing yourself, like, let's slow down that experience in your mind, really see what's going on there, what you can notice about what you don't like about this experience, about the taste, about all of it going through. And then you're noticing the wrappers around you. You feel all the shame come down on what you just did. You feel like the rest of the day, you can't focus well. You're thinking about the food and what you just ate. You're not showing up for work well. You skip your workouts. You try to go to bed that night and sleep, but you can't sleep because you're either thinking about the food that you just ate or you're like physically have some symptoms going on. You don't sleep well that night. You're tired the next day. You get the point. Like we're seeing this goes back to playing out the whole story idea. What's going on? But then we can also give ourselves, okay, let's try path B. Let's imagine walking down that road where path B is we take a moment to breathe, do a couple deep breaths to calm our nervous system. We come back to the present moment. We notice the sensations in our body. We get out of our head into our body. And then we start to give ourselves these reminders of this urge is not going to hurt me. It is just thoughts creating sensations in my body. I can handle this. I've handled sensations of desire before. Remember that time I went to Target the other day and I didn't buy that shirt? That was me doing this already. So you're giving yourself like these awesome reminders and getting through it and breathing through it. Reminding yourself that this is temporary. No one has ever come to me and said, Amber, I've binged every single day, I've had an urge every single day for the last 10 years and it's never went away. No, it ebbs and flows. Like we feel something and then it goes away. We want something and then we don't. So like it changes if we give it the opportunity to change. So most of us just eat so quickly that we don't even get the chance for the urge to go away because we make it go away by eating. So it's like, well, what if we just gave this a couple more seconds and just see how it ebbed and flowed and changed and maybe started to leave my body a little bit and lessen through it. So you're imagining that, and then you're imagining all the positive benefits after. So it's like, okay, we get through it. We're imagining walking out of that kitchen. There's no wrappers. The food is still in the pantry, and we get excited and proud of ourselves. And then we notice like how much better we can focus at work that day and how much better we sleep that night and how we do our morning workout because we have the energy to do it. So that just created a very positive future memory for your brain. And then when an urge actually happens, so whether you use this, I call it the stop a binge / urge audio. I've called it a few different things, but this audio to stop a binge, you can use it in the moment when you're actually wanting to binge, or you can listen to it ahead of time to give your brain the blueprint of what to do when it happens. Because now your brain knows, oh, here's the exact steps that I'm going to go through, and here's how it's going to happen. And then I'm going to feel really proud after. So now all your brain has to do is go on autopilot in a good way and have you do that positive new habit.
Yes, yeah, that's great. And it takes some time. People need to understand it's a process, right? It's like, I think we always look for quick fixes. I think we look for quick fixes, and we mentioned this kind of before we started the program, that, the latest injections that people are using are great at stifling food noise and appetite. And that is very difficult to deal with. Even 10 years later, I still deal with that feeling of food noise. And I think a lot of that is thankfully, we got that a lot from the industry and the types of foods, the high fructose corn syrups and things like that induce some dopamine rushes and whatnot. But looking for quick fixes to stop that doesn't change the behavior underneath, correct? So we have to focus on really not only when you start a weight loss program, which I do with patients all the time, we do have some tools, to help bridge or stop some actions or whatnot. But what I want people to understand, there's a process underneath that you have to undo and rebuild a new brain and a new thinking pattern, and to stop looking. Or maybe they come to you and think that just one session is going to do it. I'll do 2 or 3 sessions, maybe a couple of weeks, going to take care of it all, and then I'll be done. It's not true, right? It's a process.
Right. These habits did not form in just 1 or 2 weeks.
No, ma'am.
Right? These are like lifelong habits that most people have. So it not going to take a lifetime to solve them, but you do need to give yourself a little time and patience, especially when you're doing the deep brain work.
Yes.
We live in a pill-obsessed society. People love their pills, their medications, where they can just pop something, inject something, have something, and just not having to worry about it. But our body doesn't work like that. Our body doesn't work with just having like something come into it and then it fixes everything. We have to keep doing those things then in order for it to last. It's not solving anything then. So yes, you know, with the GLP-1s, I think that really shows us, though, as a society, how desperate we are to change these things and how much we want to change it. People are very motivated to change this. People do not lack like a desire to change their eating habits. That is not the problem. It's not that people are lazy or they're just like, man, I just want to eat and overeat and be fat. Like, no one wants that for themselves. But we live in a society that's created that from diet culture, from our food system, for all these other factors. We're not moving anymore. We're just like stuck inside all day. And so it's really not your fault. But, you know, it is our responsibility. We do have to decide that we live in this day and age where all of these things are a factor, and how do we want to change it? But I want to encourage people to not give up, because there are so many different solutions out there. Everyone will work. There's different things that will work for different people. And sometimes starting on a GLP-1, I'm not fully against them. I think sometimes there's like a time and place that we absolutely need that as the first step. And another beautiful part about that is it gives people hope. Like, oh my gosh, you know, I hear from people, it's like, I just feel like I can live my normal life again. Yeah, I don't have to think about food all day. If you can have that experience, that can like really remotivate you and give you that hope of like, oh, this is possible for me. I can get out of that. And so even if you're not on the GLP-1 forever, which you know, research has started to show that you kind of have to be in order to maintain it.
That's right.
You know, if you're not on it forever, then at least you know there's a bit of hope here. And I can change. And maybe that's with a GLP-1. Maybe that's I search out someone like me or Dr. Pinkston or someone who can help you address your mindset and your psychology behind it too. But not allowing yourself to give up and say, you know what, it's just me that's broken. It's really not.
Right. That is very, very well said. Thank you. I think that is the most important piece right there. Looking for the support that's needed. And, you know, you can use your tools, but there is something else going on underneath. It just has to be addressed, and it takes time, like anything. So that is great. You are such a bright light. I love your passion. I think that shows very, very well that you are very passionate about that, and thank you for your transparency too. You're doing some great work. So keep it up out there. Tell us where folks can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me at my website, theconfidenteater.org. That's where you can also find my guided urge audio to help you stop a binge. I also have a podcast of my own called Become a Confident Eater. So this is where I have a podcast every Thursday giving you tips on how to stop binge eating. So you can find me there. I have Instagram, Facebook. Look up The Confident Eater, and you should be able to find me there as well.
Absolutely. And this will all be on my website, drpbetterlife.com, when this airs. And we will have everything listed there so people can gain access and start their journey, because it's worth it. I will absolutely say, and I'm sure you will say too, it's tough. It really was not an easy thing to do. So don't anticipate it to be. But once you truly have the desire that you want to do things differently and you don't want to go back to those old habits, there is help. And you are not alone in that struggle. There are many, many fantastic people out there, very intelligent, do a lot of great things in this world, who have struggled with it too. So you definitely are not alone. So don't approach it that way. But thank you, Amber, for being on today. Any last thoughts? Anything else that we missed that you would like to add?
You know, one thing I'll say that often holds people from getting help is this idea of like, oh, I don't want to spend money on myself. I think especially as women, it's like, we'll spend money on everyone else. True. But I want to remind you that eating is something that we have to do every single day, multiple times a day for the rest of our life. And I was just getting over a cold this week. And it was my reminder too, that if we don't have our health, we truly don't have anything. We can't show up to work. We can't show up for our hobbies. We can't really do anything if we're not healthy. So I know sometimes it's scary to like ask for help and to invest in yourself. And no one wants to spend more money on anything, you know, like I get that. But I truly believe that spending the time and energy and money on this is one of the best investments that you can make. And I am so glad that I solved this while I am still young, because I have clients who are in their 60s or 70s. And I'm so proud of them for believing in themselves and taking the leap. But their biggest wish is that they did the program sooner, that they got started with help sooner. So spending a couple of $1,000s on yourself now might seem like a lot, but you are going to save yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars in your lifetime. I even did the calculation once of like how much binge eating is costing you.
Thank you.
It was something like, if you binge for the next 60 years, it's going to cost you $1 million on all of the extra food you're doing, all of the extra therapy that maybe isn't working or not addressing the right things. If you're spending money on GLP-1s and you're having to be on them for life, like there's so overeating on the food, spending money on groceries, having to buy all the extra clothes that you buy, not showing up to work productively, and like not getting raises because you're so worried about your body and food all day. Like there's so many little factors that we don't consider that are so costly to ourselves. So I just want to leave you with a little bit of encouragement to, whether it's with me or someone else, to really reach out and get support, because you will be so thankful that you have this solved and under control then.
An exclamation point on the end of that, not just one. Absolutely. Thank you. And that's true for anything you're facing in your health right now. The weight loss, everything else, trying to prevent heart disease and things like that. I try to get people to walk that walk early in life. And I'm so proud of you for doing that. Thank you. That's a great message. So everybody, thank you. Please go to drpbetterlife.com and you will find all of her information. We'll get you hooked up. And I appreciate you, Amber, for being on today. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great week. Please take care of each other out there.